We can start.
Okay. So, hi again. Welcome all to this very first talk of 2022 SPE Kuala Lumpur Knowledge Series. Uh, we will begin with this agenda. Firstly, there will be an opening note by the SPE Kuala Lumpur chairperson. Unfortunately, he is unable to attend this talk due to prior commitment. So we are going to show a recorded video that he did, followed by the SPE Kuala Lumpur Technology and Technical Team. We call it the T&T committee. Briefly, introduction of these new members, followed by introduction about the subject of today's talk along with the speaker. Then we actually have the speaker to give us the talk and good notes of advice. It will be followed by a Q&A and then a closing note, and we will update you as to what the second talk is going to be about. And we will end this session by a group photo. So here is the opening note by our SPE Kuala Lumpur chairperson, Tan Sri Anwaruddin Saidu Mohamad.
Assalamualaikum and good day, everyone. I'm Anwarudi, the chairman of SPE Cal section for term 2022-23. Let me start by saying thank you to all of you who are attending our first edition of Knowledge series for the year. I wish I can meet all of you in physical, but with restricted physical interaction due to endemic, I think we have normalized in living in the new norm and exchanging and learning online. Also taking this opportunity to address Mahathir's gratitude to all the committee members, subcommittee members, volunteers who work selflessly to serve all of you preparing this insightful content and varieties through knowledge series and many more other initiatives that are exclusively crafted for you. We at SPE Cal section celebrate none other than your success. Your success means a lot. That means we really want to see you all successful in your endeavors. In this mission, the committee elected in December last year structured itself with a singular purpose of being collaborative partner in growing opportunities and empowering our members while benefiting the community. The ultimate mission of every professional organization or institution is to serve the community, each community to empower them and achieve greater heights in their respective endeavors. Be proud that we reflect this aspiration as an association made by members for the members. It is both very interesting and challenging time now, as the industry we know today that operates. There is a pressing need to transform our industry to the expectation of global community. In responding to climate change and respond accordingly to new playbook called energy transition, while global economic landscape, technological disruption are taking shape to set ourselves into an interesting future, responding to which we want to play a vital role in engaging members for collateral growth and empower them for professional development. Hence, we should be disseminating and energizing members with the right knowledge base, awareness, and skill set to stay relevant. As such, today's topic delivered by Kak Yati, my esteemed colleague who have got connected about a decade ago through SPE, having the sharing session, which is so relevant, and I hope all of us will get benefited from this talk. In coming years, I'm looking forward to work with all of you to advocate equitable opportunities and professionals to enhance their technical and professional competence with the program that could assist us to stay relevant in coming years and decades. Let me do a very short introduction to SPKL section before handing over to Pon Yati. I hope all of you can see the slides. We are SPKL. We have been in here for more than 40 years now, very active in the industry and serving our members. We had been accorded with SPE Excellence for year 2020 and 2021, recent years. And with the new elected committee, we had made clarity to our purpose. Why do we exist and our role, and how do we do that, which is our goals. So I already explained about the purpose. Now the role of us is to catalyze the sustainable growth, Of course, we cannot do that without you and the participation of others from the industry to enhance opportunities for all of you. The goal, some of those, to create sense of belonging. So we want you to feel home by being in SPKL section, a professional home, become the preferred society to connect the community. We need to do that more to connect to the public and community, spur the culture of innovation to stay relevant, advocate for youth involvement in shaping the industry, and provide avenue for your professional continuous growth and learning, such as this session. Promote diversity and inclusion through equitable opportunities. In fact, our own committee represent a very diverse background and also inclusivity. We structured ourselves into various clusters or so-called groups to effectively serve all of you and connect all stakeholders, such as technical and technology, community outreach, membership, publicity and communication, university and faculty network, young professionals, and diversity and inclusion. And each and every one of them come up with a variety of programs and content to ensure we reflect our aspiration, which is our purpose and our goals. We connect everyone from everybody who is members, in fact, non-members too, students, professionals. There are a variety of programs, platforms, initiatives to connect all of you, and of course, for all of you to reap the benefits of the society. The fee has been also has been reduced quite significantly in the recent years. It is a lot more affordable now. In fact, SPEKL section support even to pay the membership fee if we see there are members who are very keen to be the members, but they are not sponsored or could not afford. But you can be an active participant or contribute actively. We could eventually pay for you as well. And very importantly, please feel free to become the volunteers of the section. By giving, you can always gain. And we connect everyone. We have customized a lot of program in the past to ensure we serve effectively and our role we mentioned just now. So very importantly, some of the key one mentioned here. Please feel free to ask more through our social media platform and look for, please look up in the LinkedIn and Instagram space and even in our website to look into the new initiative and new programs. We nurture our future leaders and we have quite a number of chapters in Malaysia, especially associated with KL section. All of them have been very active even through COVID-19, and almost all of them been accorded with excellence for top 10 and 25% of the student chapters around the world. Finally, thanks for all our corporate patrons. Without you, without your contribution, we couldn't have done what we have been doing. And for those of you interested to become member, volunteer, and please feel free to talk to your companies with a great deal of benefits for professional journey to your staff. And I hope you can be the bridge between us and your companies to ensure that all of us get connected and that we can progress together. So thank you. That's all from me. I look forward to see you all again in next opportunity. And I hope SPEKL section can provide a world of opportunities for all of you. So with that, stay connected, stay well, and stay safe. Thank you so much. Take care.
So I think
Nikhil, we couldn't hear you, Nikhil.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, folks, that was a very nice motivational speech by our SPE current KL chapter chairman. So this is the committee for 2022-23. As I said, the TNT committee, technical and technology. So it's headed by Fadzil and Han, and they are joined by Dr. Yati, Babak, Halim, Dr. Harris, Gibarsini, and Nikhil, that's myself. So we are the guys who are organizing these webinars and luncheons in this year. Feel free to connect with Mr. Fadzil or Mr. Khan for any queries. And now we go straight away to introducing today's talk and the speaker. So it's one of the most interesting topics, energy transition, a dilemma for the oil and gas industry. And this session will be recorded, and the recording will be made available on the SPEKL YouTube channel. So don't worry about that. And today's guest speaker is our esteemed person from Petronas, Puan Noriani Yati Mohamad. She is the General Manager, Resource Development Management for Sarawak with MPM. She became the first female member to be appointed as a skill group advisor for petroleum engineering in 2020, and currently is the only female technical advisor within Petronas. So that is quite a big achievement. She joined Petronas in 1994. That's way back as a production technologist. And over the years, she held various positions in reservoir surveillance, joint ventures, planning, and well intervention. After 2 decades with Charigali in 2014, she assumed a role with MPM to manage petroleum arrangement contractors and played a key role in unitization of the numerous Malaysia Brunei fields with a strategic focus on integrated development on sour gas fields in Sarawak. So currently, she is leading the upstream carbon capture and storage framework and operating model, and is focused on strategizing the overall development and management of our oil and gas resources of Sarawak, Malaysia. So with that, I will hand over to Dr. Yati, sorry, to Puan Yati. Just allow me to switch. Okay, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nikhil. And thank you for calling me Dr. Yati. So I got a PhD for free today. So very good afternoon. Very good afternoon, everybody. Certainly a privilege for me to be invited to speak to SPEKL members, and being the first one, I think, in the 2022 series. So thank you very much. Indeed an honor. Yeah. So indeed, like Nikhil said, the energy transition is a topic that's on everybody's mind. Whenever I have engagements, especially with students, they would always ask, like, will the oil and gas industry still be relevant? So I'm studying petroleum engineering. Will there still be a job for me, in the future when I graduate? So that's a very, very common question that I get asked a lot of times when I engage with students. Yeah. So for today, next slide, please. Thank you. Right. So for today, I'm going to start with a question on what is energy transition. So for us in the oil and gas, if you look up, if you Google up, so I Google up, energy transition, so there's a lot of definitions. Yeah. But for us in the oil and gas industry, energy transition refers to the global energy sector's shift from being fossil-based system of energy production and consumption to renewable energy sources. Yeah. So in other words, or in simpler layman terms, is energy transition means going from the normal conventional oil and natural gas as well as coal to solar, wind, and lithium-ion batteries. Yeah. So with that, as we all talk about, energy transition is inevitable. You can't stop it. So the next question, I'm pretty sure that people will be asking that with this shift to renewables, will oil and gas remain relevant in the future? I will let you ponder on that question for a while, and we can perhaps have a conversation on that at the end of my sharing. Yeah? Next. I want to start with, by stepping back in time, about 100 years back in time. So I wonder whether, all of you in the audience have heard of the grand old lady in Malaysia. Can I see a show of hands if you're familiar with the grand old lady?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so great. So the grand old lady is the first oil production well in Malaysia. It's situated on top of the Canada Hill and on onshore Miri. Started production in 1910. So when the oil and gas industry started in Malaysia, it was mainly onshore based before it gradually moved to offshore with the discoveries of fields in the Baram Delta area sometime in 1960s. Yeah. And the Malaysia oil and gas industry really transformed with the passing of the Petroleum Development Act 1974, which is also signifies the birth of Petronas as an organization. So back in 1974, when we started Petronas, the Malaysia oil production was only about 95,000 barrels per day, and it was mainly coming from oil. Yeah. And as you can see from the chart here, over the years, we have built a vibrant industry that has seen impressive growth thanks to the continuous adoption of technology and innovation of all of you who are part of the oil and gas industry. Today, at about 1.7, 1.8 million barrels of oil equivalent production per day, Malaysia's production is about the same size of UK continental shelf production, yeah? If you can see from the chart. And what is more interesting, if you see from the chart, is that while other regions, their production seems to be on a decline mode, yeah? For Malaysia, we have successfully sustained our production for the past over the years. Yeah, so that really is a very impressive performance by all of us, yeah, all of you in Malaysia as part of the oil and gas industry. Next, please. So over the last 4 decades or so, the oil and gas industry have been powering the growth of the country, and it contributes about 20% of of Malaysia GDP. Yeah? And if you see from the chart, back in 2020, about 70% of the primary energy consumption in Malaysia comes from oil and natural gas. Another 20% also coming from coal, and the remaining slightly less than 10% coming from renewables. Moving forward, yeah, even with the energy transition, as we move to 2040, if you click next, also in 2050, it is projected that the demand for oil and gas will continue to remain strong, contributing about, if you click next, please, about 60%. Yeah? So oil and natural gas will contribute about 60% of the energy mix. So still a very significant contributor when it comes to energy consumption in Malaysia. So going back to my earlier question on will oil and gas remain relevant in the future? My answer to that would be a resounding yes. It will remain to be very, very relevant. And as an industry, we need to continue our efforts to develop, to explore and develop our hydrocarbon resources to meet the growing energy demand. Next. That being said, we still need to transform ourselves to remain relevant as the entire world is moving towards a low carbon economy. So everybody's talking about, climate change, the need to be, low carbon. And as an industry, oil and gas have to move forward to that as well. So in November 2020, Petronas has announced our aspiration to achieve net zero carbon emission by 2050 as part of our holistic approach towards sustainability, and it is also aligned to our Petronas statement of purpose. At this point in time, because I see a few Petronas people in the audience, I want to ask if anybody in the audience is able to share what is the Petronas statement of purpose. Any volunteers? I hope there are some courageous Petronas staff here who remembers what our statement of purpose is. Nobody?
I think Izwan is in the call,
yes.
right?
I thought, okay. Is what you've been picked.
Oh, Dr. Harris.
A progressive energy and solutions partner, enriching lives for a sustainable future, Kak Eti.
Thank you, Lily. Well done, Lily. Give yourself a clap. Yes, so the Petronas statement of purpose is actually to be a progressive energy and solutions partner, enriching lives for a sustainable future. So net zero carbon emission is just a natural transition for Petronas as an organization. So with the target set for 2050, Petronas will continue to intensify our efforts towards reducing Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions by delivering continuous improvement in operational efficiency, by deploying innovative operations and technology, as well as implementing carbon offsets. So for today, I would like to deep dive further into carbon capture and storage of CCS, which for Petronas is now a business imperative, as it is currently the most cost-effective solution when it comes to large-scale reduction of emissions. Yeah. Next. So in terms of technical know-how, actually for Petronas, carbon capture is not new. We've started capturing CO2 from Chakrawala field in the Malaysia-Thai joint government area way back in 2004, actually. Yeah, and that was in Chakrawala, where we've used AGRU or acid gas removal unit to separate the CO2 from our gas. Yeah. So now what we're doing is actually just expanding the scope from just capturing the CO2 to storing the CO2 into identified sites. Yeah. And our first, and I think, the whole world knows it already because we've been talking about it so much. So the first Petronas CCS project will be Kasawari, in which we will start up in 2025. So in Kasawari, the CO2 is separated from Kasawari field, captured and compressed and sent by pipeline to a nearby depleted field called M1 for storage. Yeah? So when it is commissioned in 2025, Kasawari will be the biggest offshore CCS project in the world, with the capacity to store about 4 million tons of CO2 per annum. Yeah. So this is a project that we are very excited about, and we're all rooting for the success of Kasawari. After Kasawari, we also have another project that's progressing now. This is Lang Lebah CCS, where the CO2 from Lang Lebah will be captured from Lang Lebah and then sent to, and also a depleted gas field nearby called Golo. Yeah? So this will start up around 2027. In terms of storage capacity, there is ample capacity in Malaysia. Based on our storage atlas study, Malaysia has an estimated of about 46 TCF of storage capacity from depleted gas fields. Currently, we are also assessing and looking at potential sites from aquifers as well. And with that, we are confident that the storage capacity in Malaysia will further increase from 46 BCM. From our current projection now, we will be needing Petronas upstream requires about 60% of the storage capacity, which leaves the remaining 40% of storage capacity will be available for others who are interested to store their CO2 into our storage sites. Yeah. Okay, next. Right. So Petronas, as the shaper, enabler, and facilitator of oil and gas industry in Malaysia, is currently developing a comprehensive framework and operating model to facilitate the successful implementation of CCS in Malaysia. Currently, we have 5 work streams which are running in parallel, covering the technical aspects of it, technology, legal and regulatory, commercial, as well as collaboration. Example, under the technical work stream, we have developed the Malaysia Sequestration Area Development Plan. So in this ADP, we have a view of the potential storage sites in Malaysia and what are also the potential emitters that can store them. So it's kind of like a mapping of the source as well as the sink for CCS. Yeah. We've also, and in terms of technical, a lot of our focus right now lies in looking at cost compression, because as you know, CCS projects are not cheap. It is very capex intensive. So we have done workshops and we're working with a few parties in terms of looking at what are the opportunities in terms of driving down the cost for CCS. Yeah? And another one is into a collaboration. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have read in the recent news where Petronas has signed a few MOUs with several companies. For example, we've signed with Shell, ExxonMobil, and also Mitsui in terms of collaboration in maturing some of these, for example, fields for CCS, as well as collaborating in certain technologies for CCS. So definitely, as I said, now CCS is a business imperative for Petronas, as we are aware of the need for us to decarbonize our industry. Next. As you can see, our efforts are all lined up to ensure the successful execution of our CCS projects. And for Petronas in upstream, we have got 2 focus areas. Our first focus area is to find CO2 solutions for our producing and new gas fields development, where we are looking at innovative and cost-effective CO2 capture, transport, and storage technologies to monetize our high CO2 fields. And we're also looking at joint CCS studies and technology collaboration with various parties. Our second focus area for upstream Petronas is also to look at opportunities in creating a new revenue stream for Petronas. As I mentioned earlier, we have got ample storage capacity in Malaysia, and we do have the opportunity to be able to offer that to others as storage sites. So this is a new revenue stream that we are looking forward to. Right, next. Okay. So I would actually like to end my sharing today with a call of action. A call of action for all of us in the industry to transform ourselves to remain relevant in the low carbon economy. So some of the challenges, from the lens of Petronas as the regulator for oil and gas in Malaysia, some of the key challenges that we see as we transition is definitely technical from the technical point of view, technology as well as cost. Yeah? And in terms of the support or the collaboration that we look forward with the industry, I mean, I'm sure all of you here, I mean, I was very happy to see that there's a very diverse background of attendees here from various organizations, service company, from operators. Yeah? So the support that we need is actually, first of all, is viable technical solutions to which needs to come in timely in order for us to come up with all these storage sites. Yeah. Secondly, is in terms of technology, where there must be innovative and fit for purpose technologies which can handle CO2 transport, capture, as well as storage. Yeah? And we are looking at strategic partnerships and collaboration with the industry as well as the academia. When it comes to costs, we know based on our area development plan, one of the key success factor in driving down the cost is actually to have integrated hubs and cluster concepts, yeah, for the storage sites. Yeah. So those are some of the key action items and priorities that we are currently looking at when it comes to CCS in support of the energy transition. So, so, so I would like to just recap a few things. One, oil and gas will always remain relevant in the next 4 or 5 decades. Yeah? It will continue to contribute as a major part, especially for Malaysia in terms of our GDP. And secondly is there is a need for us to decarbonize our industry. We need to produce oil and gas, which is low in carbon. We need to find technology and technical solutions to make that happen. And thirdly, can't emphasize enough, is more on collaboration between all parties in the oil and gas industry, be it from the operator side, as well as the service provider, as well as the academia. With that, I would like to end my sharing. Thank you for listening, and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you on this. Thank you. Back to you, Nikhil. Nikhil, you're on mute.
I think I got muted automatically. Okay. Oh, thank you, ma'am, for this excellent talk. And I believe there will be so many questions because it is quite a excellent overview that you have given. And thank you so much for that. So with that, basically, we begin our Q&A. So Han, if there are any questions that you have in the chat, would you please read them out, or I can because I'm not presenting. So I think we can. Yeah,
you can read it from your side. Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's better for me to start with the latest one. What is the price of carbon being set by Petronas? Is the latest question, ma'am.
Right. The price of carbon. Currently, we don't actually set the price of carbon. In our economic evaluation, we always said we assume about $20 price of carbon, but that is just an assumption that we make in our economic runs. As you know, the government of Malaysia last year has announced their plans to introduce carbon tax in Malaysia. Although we know it will take a couple of years before they actually finalize and set a carbon tax price. But from our discussions with experts and industries, even if the government sets a tax price, it will probably be around $4 or $5. Yeah. So for our internal, we assume it's about $20. But from insights that we hear, likely the government will only put about $4 to $5, which is I think comparable to what the Singapore government is currently putting. Yeah.
Right, right. So the next question, how do you see the coming together of potential partners for a hub or a cluster business model? Would this include international countries and industries?
Thank you. Very good question, John. Yes, so I mentioned about Petronas' aspiration to be a regional storage hub, and we are currently, in early discussions with potential partners as well as customers, and the most of them will be coming from Singapore, Korea, Japan, around that area in Asia Pacific. So it is including international countries, and also it is also we are open to actually beyond the oil and gas industry. Yeah? So it's not limited to oil and gas industry.
Uh-huh, so there is one question that came from our SPE Kuala Lumpur chapter chairperson. So what is your view on equitable progress in embracing energy transition, where the disparity between countries which rely on fossil fuel as economic prosperity varies depending on socio-economic status of the producing countries?
Why does Anwar have to ask such challenging questions?
He very much wanted to attend, but he had.
That is a very challenging question. I don't think I have an answer to that, but it is really, I think, one of the key challenges. Yeah, as the world progresses, as we move into energy transition, I think there's no one answer to it, but really, if you've heard of the energy trilemma, right? Equitability, accessibility. So it's really a pity that I think what a third of the world does not have actually, access even, yeah,
Yes.
to
Exactly.
energy. So I think it's really a pity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although maybe in Malaysia, the problem is not that significant. Yeah. But definitely, I think it's not an answer that I have, or even an answer that Petronas has. It's something I believe that the countries, the government heads, the countries have to work together, to ensure that as we progress, we don't leave people behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
Maybe Nikhil, you have a better answer for that. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, coming from India, when you look at the villages, uh, it is miles and miles and miles away from something what we are even discussing. So there will always be the developing countries which have a huge internal consumption, uh, where the world can give all the oil to India and China, and yet it will not be enough. So all resources can be pulled in, yet it will not be enough. So as you said, it is a question which is currently probably very difficult to have one unique answer. But the good part is that at least all the countries have started thinking about not only themselves but also of the entire community, because in one way they can share their resources, and perhaps in another way they can gain access to a technology which is a niche, which could be developed in a country which may have not got nothing to do with oil and gas. Japan is a net importer, but maybe they have a technology that can come up so nicely that people adapt to it. Or like Netherlands, like I've read a few white papers on that. So very interesting things are coming up. And as you rightly said, yeah, currently it's at an assessment stage, and I guess very soon it will be on a major progressive route.
Okay, I think Amir has a question, right? Amir, do you want to voice your question now?
Yeah, sure. Assalamualaikum Kak Yati and pleasant afternoon, everyone. I actually have two questions and they relate to this deck that you showed. There was one deck that you showed where we have about, okay, the reserves or the mix, energy mix from 2020 to 2020, 2050. Now, based on that, we can see that oil is still a major, oil and gas was still a major contributor to the mix. But how does that compare to the confirmed reserves that we have to fulfill the 60%, you know, because, yep, that's the mix, but do we have enough oil and gas? That would be my first question. The second question I have is, what are the largest CO2 contributors that we have identified? Because on the slide that you focus, you pivoted to CCUS, that slide had a few things like flaring and venting reductions, energy efficiency and whatnot. And of course, you focus on CCUS. But I just wonder, what are the major contributors now? Because if we identify what those are, and if they are in large portion, then maybe those would be the ones that we go to immediately and address, for instance. So just the two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. So your first question on whether Malaysia has enough hydrocarbon resources to meet the energy demand, very simple answer would be yes. Based on our outlook in terms of discovered resources as well as potential discoveries, we know that we should be able to continuously support the nation's demand for oil and gas. Of course, that being said, one of the key things or one of the main challenge that we face, especially for Sarawak, for Sarawak, if I say for Sarawak, would be that the future resources has high contaminants. So it would be technically and as well as commercially more challenging to develop these resources. Yeah. So moving forward. Yeah. So hence, that's why I keep on emphasizing that really, technology will play a very critical role here. How do I monetize these high contaminant resources with techno commercially viable solutions? Yeah. Yep.
Right.
So that's the first one. The second one is on the largest CO2 contributor. So starting with Petronas. So within Petronas, as you know, Petronas is very big. So we've got different business units. We've got upstream, downstream. But within Petronas, the upstream contribution in terms of emission is about 35% of the total Petronas. So the remaining 65% emitters are actually from our downstream and our plants, our GM, our gas and new energy, as well as our plants. So that gives you a rough idea on who the biggest culprits are when it comes to emission. I think in Malaysia, when you want to broaden it and see what about in Malaysia, although now we know that I think industries that's very aggressive on energy transition, being zero carbon emission is the oil and gas industry, the way I see it. But actually, I think they're not, oil and gas industry is not the biggest emitters. It's actually think other industries, even like transportation. In coal. So we're not the biggest emitters, but I think as we all know, maybe because we've got deeper pockets, so people always look at the oil and gas industries to help solve the problems and challenges.
Yeah, thank you so much. So going back to some of the questions here, with the aim to make Malaysia as the regional CCS hub, what would be Malaysia's competitive advantage and perhaps challenges that you foresee currently to achieve that target as a regional hub?
So I would start with, I'm a positive person, so I would start with competitive advantage. I would, I believe the first competitive advantage is because Malaysia is blessed with, many available reservoirs, and a lot of these reservoirs are already pretty matured and will pretty soon be depleted. So to start with, we are blessed with the subsurface part of it. We do have the reservoirs. We have proven reservoirs that can be good storage sites. And in my presentation earlier, we talked about our very high level assessment of about 46 TCF.
Yeah.
And that is just from depleted gas fields. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're also looking at aquifers. We're also looking at depleted oil fields. Although our assessment shows that depleted oil fields has maybe significantly smaller potential. Yeah? So that will be our first competitive advantage, is the subsurface. Our second competitive advantage, the way I see it, is the available infrastructure that we have in Malaysia. Yeah? So the facilities in Malaysia, be it in Peninsula or Sabah and Sarawak, are very well interconnected. And that would really facilitate in terms of moving the CO2 around or whatever. Okay? So that integrated facilities that we have already in Malaysia. And third, of course, being a Petronas, I would like to promote Petronas. I think the competitive advantage for Malaysia is the presence of Petronas, who is a very reputable national oil company, and is which not only have the technical competency, but also being being a good facilitator and enabler, and in progressing with a lot of the projects that we have in Malaysia. Okay? And I know for you, I'm pretty sure, Nikhil, you probably work all over the world, and I'm pretty sure you know that in Malaysia it's a lot easier because you just work with Petronas, sort of a one-stop center. I've had the experience where in this country, to get one thing done, you have to work with 20 different agencies, because they don't actually have a one-stop center to facilitate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So very true.
So those are to me the top three competitive advantage. Yeah? In terms of the challenges, definitely I talked earlier about how CCS is very capex intensive. So that would be, to me, the first challenge. Getting the funding for our CCS projects. As you know, actually, every single CCS project in the world has got funding in some sort, be it from the government or some sovereign fund and whatnot. I think with the exception of perhaps Gorgon, which only got about 50 million from the Australian government. But our project, Kasawari, is not funded by any government or anything. So our project is fully funded through the production sharing contracts. So when I tell people, we've been in discussions, with a lot of people globally, they were always very surprised to hear that the ability for us to fund a CCS project just through production sharing contracts.
Wow.
Yeah, and without getting any funding. So I think that will be a very big challenge for us, because we cannot continue to do that. So it will be more on the capex intensity of the projects. Yeah, that's how I think will be the biggest challenge. So it's really about finding technically and commercially viable solutions to make it happen. Yeah. In terms of competency, I always feel that that Malaysians are very think innovative and always steps up to challenges. So we will be able to build that competency if required. So to me, the challenge would be just more on, the capex requirement to have these sites ready.
Right. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to squeeze my own personal question because it's related over here. Basically, I think what you said, from what I interpret, so the high level assessment shows that CO2 injection for enhanced oil recovery is not something that Petronas is looking at currently, as opposed to storing it, because the benefits of purely storing it are high because of the inherent capacity available, right?
Right. Yeah. So actually, we've done that study, and we've revisited the study of doing CO2 EOR.
Yeah.
And for Malaysia environment, it's not something that I think that would be viable for a few reasons. A couple of it will be, we are in an offshore environment. It will be very expensive to do it in the offshore environment. Also, our fields was not developed with that in mind. Yeah? So there's a lot of modifications and changes, to make it happen. And also the reservoir pressures, to make it miscible and immiscible. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Nikhil?
And then, yep. Yeah, Han.
Nikhil, let me intervene a bit. So guys, I think we have another 5 minutes to go.
Yes.
So I think if Puan Yati, if you're okay, we can continue for the next 15 minutes if you're free to answer all of the questions.
Sure.
That's okay with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be fine. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So guys, I think we'll maybe extend another 15 minutes just to go through all of the questions. If you can continue to stay, please feel free to stay. Yeah. Sorry, back to you, Nikhil.
Okay. Thank you, Han. Good point. So the next one is, when do you expect the commercial framework to be drafted, finalized, and will there be consultations with operators here?
Okay, so I think that's referring to my presentation earlier on the framework and operating model for CCS, right? So we started that last year, and we will be completing most of it by middle of this year. Yeah. So for example, when you talk about commercial arrangements for high CO2 fuels and whatnot, all of that will be finalized. The key principles will be finalized by either mid this year, or at the very latest before end of the year. Okay. Whether there will be consultations with operator, I would say not formal, but really more on, through informal discussions and engagements with the operator.
Right. Because I believe there are already discussions held with Shell, Exxon. So I think it's a part and parcel of sharing. Yep. Okay. The next one is Petronas investing in liquid CO2 tankers to transport the liquid CO2 from other sources and countries?
I'll just say that there have been discussions. Nothing is finalized yet. Yeah. There are discussions ongoing here.
Right. Now that the oil price is almost $100 US, will this affect the energy transition process? What is your forecast of the oil price in the next few decades?
Wow, I wonder who's asking that very difficult question. I don't have a forecast of the oil price. I rely on the other experts to do their forecast. But we do know that, we do expect that at least the oil price will be relatively high for the next and until at least until 2025, 2026. Yeah, even when it comes to LNG, you know, I think
Right.
if you you know read you know projections from experts, 2025, 2026 would be the best time, you know, for LNG and whatnot. Yeah, so in terms of the oil price, whether it will affect the energy transition, I think energy transition is something that is very much long term. It's something that needs to be done regardless of the oil price. Yeah? Because we're all, I think, you know, especially the younger generation, yeah, very much into, you know, environmental, being more responsible, sustainable development. So, regardless, I believe that energy transition is here to stay.
Right. Right. So there are two or three more questions, but I'm reading the last one. It's an interesting one. Like the 46 TCF is the gross volume of the depleted reservoirs, or is it equivalent to the stored CO2 volume?
It is the stored CO2 volume.
Stored CO2. Okay, okay. And then this one actually, oh, this is a question. I thought somebody was making, okay.
That is a
Okay.
long question.
All right. So I think the question is, does Petronas look forward to customers or investors other than the ones from oil and gas industry towards the
Yes.
CCS effort?
Okay. Customers, okay. Well, our current priority, of course, for Petronas, our current priority is actually for our internal. So we start with internal, making sure that, you know, all our business unit within Petronas, you know, achieve net zero carbon emission and whatnot. So it starts with internal, but we are also reaching out and collaborating with others currently within the oil and gas industry for CCS. Going beyond the industry, I think, is a natural next step. Although right now, I don't think there's any serious discussions yet. But I believe naturally it will become the next step. Yeah, because it takes
Yes.
the whole, you know, it takes the whole village to make
Yeah.
this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot depend
Correct.
on
Correct.
the oil and gas industry only.
Yes. 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 So I think, and with Rapid being there near Johor, so that itself is a big task to make it net zero. So over there, you heard Mr. Bhaskaran with regards to your question, industrial processes and refining. So in Malaysia, we have Rapid. So that has all the other processes that you can think of, from refining to petrochemicals. So as Pon Yati said, that yes, it's a gradual process which will happen eventually. And then there's another question. Initiatives to look into managing the rising cost of raw materials in all the plants and facilities that may be required for this effort at surface. So how is Petronas looking at minimizing this raw material cost or process costs?
Oh, unfortunately, I don't have the answer for that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I
I
believe
don't.
that the world over there has been a significant effort on the subjects which probably we hated during our college, or we thought that okay, I'm going to skip most of this, which was metallurgy and material science, because those were so tough. Chemistry was so tough, but now it looks like there has been a new life given to chemistry and material science, because the way the new blends are coming in, there are batteries which are even better than lithium ion. Then
Mm,
so it's going on with the help of, I think, material science and chemistry. So I think that has a very very good future.
mm.
So okay. This one is kind of a discussion between the people. So they were talking about LNG, and then I think the main question is how much can we compensate than what we can deal with? Like, is there like a compensation between CO2 and LNG?
I
Because
don't really understand that.
yeah, like the perception is LNG is clean, like
Right.
maybe so. How do you like the net effect is that if LNG is clean, it burns completely, which I'm not entirely sure, but it still contributes to greenhouse, although it burns completely. And then what they're asking is we can be sure that we can still vent some of the CO2, but how much can we compensate against that? Probably,
Oh, I
Mr.
have no
Bakar,
answer to
if
that.
I interpret your maybe I think Han, is it possible to unmute Mr. Bakar so that he sheds
Yeah, yeah.
light on
Let,
his
let,
query?
let me give it a go. Where is it, Mr.
Uh, Mohammed Faiz Abu Bakar, I believe.
Okay. Let me just unmute everyone, and then you try to. Let me mute everyone, and then you unmute yourselves. Yeah. Okay, you try to unmute yourself now, Nikhil and Ponyati.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Mr. Faiz Bakar, you can go ahead with your question. I think you have a couple of them. Oh, I think he's not here. Okay, okay, he has ended it with saying, since we are diversified, be it from our background or what we deliver day to day, the question is, where do we start awareness on COP26?
Where do we start in terms of energy transition, or where do we start as well?
Yeah, I believe how do we start and where do we start? Uh,
I think it always starts with education. If we do anything, it's always about educating and creating awareness on, and creating that compelling reason on why we're doing something. So if you talk about energy transition and whatnot, we need to be able to tell the community and the people or the industry or whoever, all the stakeholders, that why is it important for us to do this. Yeah, so it always starts with creating that awareness and
yeah.
giving that education on the importance of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we start with ourselves. That's the message. Thank you so much. I believe we have covered it all. If not, we are going to go through this recording. So and we have all the contact emails. So please feel free if your question has not been answered, folks. You can always write to SPEKL. And with that, thank you. I will try to go to the yeah. So there was one thing which we wanted to tell the audience about the AAPG and the SPE merger. So should you have any feedback, you can share your feedback at the SPE Kuala Lumpur site that's mentioned here. Please feel free to ask your queries or provide feedback on this. We will take it forward for sure. And uh, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Once again, the recording will be made available to you on YouTube. Our next talk is going to be humanizing renewable energy. That's the planned talk by Mr. Noor Shahiwan. He is the CEO and founder of Suncrox Solar. So that's coming up on Wednesday, 9th of March, 2022. You will get the invites, so you can register for that and attend this session. With that, we are going to go to a group photo, and after this group photo, we will once again have a vote of thanks for our esteemed distinguished speaker of today. Yeah, Nurul, are you going to be the one to take the photo?
Can everyone switch on your
Yeah.
camera, please?
Okay.
Yeah, I think Dr. Yati will be the one taking, right?
All right.
Yeah, Nurul.
Dr. Yati,
Can
Nurul,
everyone
right?
switch
Okay.
on the camera, please?
Everyone, can you turn on your camera, please? If you could.
Mm. One, two, three. One more. Wait, one, two, three. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
See you in the next
yeah,
session.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. Really enjoyed your talk. It was a very good interactive session, I believe. So many thanks, and hopefully you have such a big knowledge base that if you think of any other topic that you want to uh, share your advice, please do contact us, and we will be more than happy to host another talk with your advice.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with all of you. Thank you. All the best
Thank
to
you.
everybody.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, I think Dr. Yati, maybe you can stop the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about
Okay.
it.